Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beefloaf. This show is being powered by From the 108 and FromThe108.com, where you can get all of our content top to bottom, blogs, podcasts, and videos, including the world-famous Sunday Soak. You can also get all of our merch there as well, including our infamous Wave Sucks and hashtag 108 in Garbs. This show is powered by you, the loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, and turn on notifications, and most definitely do super chats because that's how we get paid, and that's how we provide the content that you know and love. Tonight's guest, he's an original at Barstool Chicago, the co-host of the newly minted Mid-Show that airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Barstool Chicago's YouTube page, as well as wherever you go to get podcasts. Also the co-host of On the Guest List, where he interviews the top acts in music. He's a three-time 108 tourney champion and a dear friend of mine. Welcome to the Au Jus, White Sox Dave. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you guys today? Well, how are you today, Beef?
I'm terrific, man. Good. Yeah. It's really good to talk to. It's been a minute, I feel like, and it's been a minute since we just riffed on some White Sox stuff. So I'm really looking forward to this because usually we'll cross paths, but I think last time we saw each other was the 108 day. And thanks again for being on the panel there. We really appreciate it.
Of course. I always look forward to that day. It usually brings nothing but optimism, like kind of I don't know, the kind of kickoff to spring training.
Yep.
And I wish I could say that this year was like all other years, but it wasn't. It was more sullen and down, and I'm sure that's stuff we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, exactly right. Before we get into any White Sox stuff, I kind of wanted to break down a few things with you. You're a very busy man right now. You were doing what looked like a reality show with a guy named Donnie from your company. You went to the Dominican Republic. Tell me a little bit about that excursion. That looked pretty awesome, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so Donnie is our foreign correspondent, as he calls it, and he travels all over the world. He lived in China for almost a decade, lived in Italy for a year over the pandemic, is from Boston, but just has a real sincere and genuine curiosity about any and all cultures. Like, he's been in Baghdad, Turkey, okay. Istanbul, Turkey. He was at the World Cup in Qatar. So anytime there's like a big foreign national event, he goes. And a couple of years ago, him and I were talking at our New York headquarters, and I don't know how he got on the subject, but I told him, because people see Donnie's content and they think he's just this kind of goofy dude that likes to get himself into situations, but he's a pretty brilliant guy. He went to Tufts out in Massachusetts, which is, Ivy League quality education just about. And he's really bright. And we were on the subject of what we majored in college. And I had told him, I'm like, I was a sports management major, almost completed my Spanish major too, which I looked it up the other day. I was a Spanish, like 490 course and a study abroad, which I would have had to study abroad for 6 months in Spain or a Spanish speaking country to complete the degree. So I was pretty close to getting a Spanish major, and I don't know if he believed me, but we have we have Liz Gonzalez at our company who is her parents were both born in Mexico, and she's fluent in Spanish. And he threw us on a microphone together, and I was hanging with her about as well as he could for someone who hadn't spoken Spanish in 10 years. So as someone who had never gone out of the country, which I hadn't, I didn't even have my passport until about a year ago.
Oh, shit.
We've been spinning the circles on doing a Caribbean baseball tour. So at first he wanted to go to Caracas. Obviously not the best idea considering all of the geopolitical climate there in Venezuela right now with Maduro and that and our old friend Magli Ordonez.
That's right. I always forget about that.
So anyway, we wound up going to the Lead On World Series, which is the Dominican League World Series. And we were down there for a week, and it was the most fun I've pretty much ever had at a baseball game. The atmosphere was incredible. For you guys, like you and Chirizi and who's the third? What's his name again?
your boy, My Sox Summer.
That was a joke. Just busting balls.
That's right. I love
that. It's a trip that I recommend to every single diehard baseball fan. Those fans are crazy. They blow off fireworks in the stands. They sell booze in like water bottles for nothing.
I saw that you had like a water bottle of rum or something, right?
And they're just pouring it for you. It's like, here's $5. Give me a bottle of rum. They have drum lines. After Lise won the World Series, they like all the fans just kind of charged the field and they celebrated together. And they brought out a big ass 18-wheel truck that they folded out into a stage.
Oh, hell
and
yeah.
bands playing. They did the award ceremony. It was the best atmosphere of all time. And I said it a million times over the course of the few videos. Like, if Major League Baseball wants to learn how to market their product better, like, the game itself is awesome. Let the fans go crazy like that. You know, of course, it was a World Series game, and our World Series games are nuts up here as well. But
different nuts for sure.
Nuts. You know, those fans were insane about baseball. Everywhere you looked, every street corner, kids playing stickball in the streets. It's like part of their blood. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, we had this discussion last. We were doing a playback of the U.S. versus Mexico, and it was us and then the Sox Machine guys. Treasy and I had the sombrero on. I was doing home run sombrero and everything. But we were talking about how in the U.S. we're a little vanilla when it comes to that. We don't have a lot of the super fan action. There's pockets of it, but it's not like it is abroad. And we wish it was. Maybe it starts with the 108ers. Maybe we got to pick up the slack here at Sox Park and do something about it.
Not just you guys. I remember Shelby Duncan. Or Shelby Duncan. I was about to say Shelby Miller. Shelby Duncan.
Yeah.
During the 2021 season, when there were still capacity limits, that was the first year after the pandemic we thought the Sox were taking off. And if you remember, the outfield bleachers were just a zoo. And Shelby Duncan's like, this is the best place to watch a baseball game in baseball. And there's only like 10,000 people there because of the capacity limits.
Right. It was still nuts.
It was still nuts. But I mean, winning goes a long way with that. Obviously, there's a huge, and we don't got to go down this rabbit hole too much because we'd be here for hours. But there's like they'd say in Moneyball, there's the rich teams, then there's the poor teams, then there's the 30 miles of shit, and then there's everybody else. Like if the White Sox were consistently year over year good, I'm talking like your floor's 88, 90 win team,
right?
Then there's your answer right there. Winning cures all in the end.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. That's absolutely true. Let me get to a few drinks here. I got some super chats. Lil Yumper, cheers. I got white wine tonight, as all of you who follow the show know. He says, here's a super chat because MSS can't find the button. Yeah, my Sox number tries to claim he doesn't know how to super chat. He's just a cheap prick. That's what it is, Dave. And next up is my guy Baloney. He says, time change got me all effed up. Vote Baloney. Yeah, he's a little late. 108 tourney is about to start. So the hashtag vote stuff is out there in full right now, Dave.
Yeah, go and vote in that tournament. And like I said, I am a whore for money and can be bought for next to nothing. I'll sell out for just about anything.
We all know that.
And the sandwich? That's all you need to say.
And Soul Goal Sox fan, thank you. He says, good evening, all. And it says, vote Soul Goal. Yeah, appreciate you. All right, Dave. So I want to get to a couple other things with Barstool. First things first, the mid show is brand spanking new. So Redline Radio was one of the biggest sports podcasts in Chicago history. You guys have stopped that. I want to call it a breakup. Maybe it's a separation, but a separation with Barstool Carl. He's gone off to kind of do his own thing. You guys are regrouping, and now you're doing the mid show. Tell me a little bit about kind of how you guys see the mid show going and how it's different than what Redline Radio used to be.
So unfortunately for a sports podcast that is very hyper local like Redline Radio was, you're at the mercy of being not at the mercy, I don't want to say, because obviously, like, say if Big Cat had started a brand new, like, it would be the most successful thing on earth. We're not Big Cat, right, obviously, but you're at the mercy to at least some extent of how good the teams are. Right now, the Hawks are the worst team in hockey. The Bears just, were the first overall pick, now ninth. Sox, everybody hates them. The Cubs are in a rebuild, and none of us really do basketball. So we kind of had like a natural governor on how big we could get with the podcast. And the downloads plateaued. And what we found was people loved our Sirius show. That was very successful. And so we decided to just add a show on Tuesday, change the name to not make it seem like it's a hyper local show. It's something that national audience, because in the end, like, Barstool used to be very city specific, and it's not that anymore. It's evolved into a national media brand. So we added the Tuesday show. where it's kind of just bullshitting around, not too dissimilar from what you guys do, and then kept the Thursday show and have an hour of bullshitting around, but we still had that really loyal audience and listenership where we're going to keep all the same. We're not forcing ourselves, so it's not going to be like, all right, now what do you want to talk about the Blackhawks? What do you want to talk about?
Right. If there's nothing, you ain't doing it. That's kind of thing, right?
We don't need to do that because no one's tuning in for that. No one wants to hear us talk about how much I hate Jerry Reinsdorf, or Chief talk about Stan Bowman,
right?
Or talk about how we think Justin Fields is going to be good. So we're just adding that to the end of this Thursday episode, and we're still good. So we're going out to Arizona in a couple weeks. We're gonna interview a bunch of players. Hopefully, get Rick Hahn on. And so everything's the same for the most part. We just added stuff that will expand on the audience, and it's been great so far. We've gotten like 8,000 subscribers over the last 2 weeks, just because people now are actively looking to tune in to what we're talking about, because it's not Chicago sports specific.
Yeah, I watched a couple of the live streams when I was at work. In the office, I got the dual screens up, but I pulled you guys up in the screen. If you don't mind, can I give a couple notes? Because I absolutely love you guys doing sports. I think you guys do sports in a way where it's informative, but you don't get too nerdy, but you keep the passion in there and you keep it fun. So I was sad to see the old version of Redline Radio go away, even though I understand why you did it. With this new version, it looks like you guys are ushering in almost a reality TV show style. And I'll be honest with you, I think your partners need to work on this a little bit. I'm not giving notes to you, Dave. You were terrific, and I enjoyed your parts. But the first couple shows, Eddie's got to be more devious, okay? He's got the Red Ed thing, but he's got to go further. If you guys are going to go in that, and then your boy Chief, he needs a persona. I think he needs a persona. He's too vanilla right now. We got to have something where we can hate Chief. He's not hateable enough yet, in my personal opinion. These are just my thoughts on the show so far.
He'll get there. I know that he will get there because he pisses me off as much as anybody. And,
I believe this.
And Ed he'll do something like, I always think to this, like that. I don't know. This is if you remember this, you're like an actual OG, but a couple of years ago when we were in our insurance closet office, he hid a bunch of people from, the Statesville prison haunted house.
Yeah.
He had them all come in, and he hid one of them in a closet.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, can you go get me a extension cord or something?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And some goblin popped out. Like, he does that.
I do remember this.
Not to give him any ideas, but I almost had a heart attack. Like, if he can get me to almost dying on a weekly or bi-monthly basis, then we're going to start cooking. And I'm sure his juices are flowing. He's a really creative guy. And that's
and you're 100%. But I know he's evil to the core. He tries to act like a nice guy. I just need it to come out of him. I just need it because he has to shift back over when he's talking to like a plumber or whatever on Dog Walk. Right, but when he comes back, he needs to be an evil son of a bitch when he's with you guys. That's just my thought. But so far, so good. Enjoying it, especially enjoying the last couple shows. And you guys, especially with Danny, even though you got him at the kids' table, he's good at riffing on any topic too. So you guys got a nice little mixture going on there. Little 4-man weave that I'm enjoying there. So.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't want to do when we made the kind of brand change was just go absolute balls to the wall for the first episode or 2 weeks or a month even. Not that we haven't been working hard, because we've had countless hours behind the scenes, like preparing for this relaunch. But I want to kind of, gradually build up to like if anybody in here watches the Yak, like it is so different than what it started as. It evolved into just an awesome daily show. And that's what we're eventually going to be doing once everybody makes the mass migration out here. Is we're going to be adding people, having different personalities come in and out. Excuse me, and kind of building from there. But this is like the base floor, and we're really excited about it.
That's awesome. I want to get to a couple quick things before we get to the White Sox. Number one, very recently, you and Dante interviewed one of my all-time favorites, Gavin Rossdale from Bush. Now, I shouldn't say this on this show because then I'm going to let people behind the curtain. But, Bush was really popular when I was at end of high school, early in college. I shit you not, Treasy could back this up. I streaked my hair so that my hair would look like Gavin Rossdale's hair in 1996 or whatever. He had a choker. I would wear a choker. Like I admired this dude so much back in the day. So to me, it was outrageous that someone I'm friends with is sitting there with this motherfucker doing 40 minutes. So what was it like to interview Gavin Rossdale? Give me all the details.
I'm going to give you guys a little trick of the trade that I stumbled into that I had no idea was going to be as awesome as it is. Start a music podcast. I get a million DMs and emails and whatever from people asking for tips on starting a podcast. And my number one piece of advice is be funny and differentiate yourself, because there are a million different podcasts talking about Luis Roberts' Weighted Run Creative Plus. You know?
There are, yes.
So with music, I'm like, we don't really do anything with music at Barstool. So to make a long story short, I linked up with a band out in Philly, Foxtrot and the Get Down, who's like an up and coming band. They just hit 1 million streams on their first single, 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
And then a producer out in LA, Kenny Carkeet, who was a founding member of AWOL Nation, he co-wrote Sail, which was like the biggest song of the year 2012 or whatever.
Okay.
So as it kind of snowballed with downloads on that, we have people reaching us from in the music industry, not begging us, but offering us their clients and themselves, because they're always looking to promote something, a tour, a new single, a new album, a new band, whatever. And with athletes, it's like you got to beg them to hop on your show, because they don't. What incentive do they have? Usually when they get on a microphone, they get in trouble for saying something stupid.
Right. They don't need you guys.
Opposite. But music, they're always looking to promote themselves and promote their brands and their bands and their music. So I got an email that Friday. Hey, Gavin Rossdale and Bush are at the Salt Shed. Do you want to interview? Yeah. Same thing with Ice Cube. Same thing with Nickelback. Same thing with the Black Keys. So not one of those bands did we actively go out and ask for. They're like behind the scenes people. Their managers and agents and shit are emailing us asking for the promotion. So if you want to start a podcast, even if you don't know the first thing about music like me, start a music podcast.
I love that advice. Absolutely love that advice. I want one more piece of advice from you before we get into White Sox stuff. You are infamous at internet bits, Twitter bits, things that are just absolutely amazing to me. The Hall of Fame ballot one is an absolute all-timer, and with the Jeter thing, the thing just went berserk. Now, I remember you were doing it before then, minimal traction, and then boom, that thing shot through. Another one is when you cook this steak with the Texas toast and this thing still gets brought up on a regular basis. So any tip I can get from you to create an insane internet bit like this, what would you suggest the Beefloaf start doing?
You gotta let people. You gotta take what people say about you, and even if it's 99% not true, use that 1% to your advantage.
Okay.
I wouldn't ever eat that steak, but I know
right.
that you think I would eat that steak. So I was at Mariano's. This is back when we were in the same insurance closet. We were at Mariano's on Chicago Ave. And I was with Eddie, and I'm like, and I don't know what we were shopping together for. It was for something for work. And I saw that steak on the thing. It was like $2. I'm like, look at this, Ed. And he just shook his head. He's like, I don't want anything to do with this. So I get home 30 seconds on one side, 30 seconds on the other. I get the Texas toast. I get the Bush's baked beans. I use the Frisbee plate. That is just a cutting board for me, really, that I refuse to throw out because it's near and dear to my heart at this point. And
incredible.
And just let the internet run with it.
I love it. Amazing. Let me catch up on a couple of drinks here. Tadahito says, I'll buy Dave beers for an endorsement.
Deal. You're in.
You're in, Tadahito. Gordo says, I'll tip for MSS. Someone already tipped for MSS, but go ahead, Gordo. We'll appreciate you. And then my guy, Mike Prez, says, don't let the days go by. Yeah, that's right. That's Glycerine, I think, by Bush.
Don't let the days go. I will say, so American accents. We got no accent Midwestern people. You got white trash Southern hick hillbilly accent. You got New York accent. Britain, they got the Cockney, the more blue collar accent. His is the most perfect. Is it King's or Queen's English?
Queen's English.
Queen's English. He's like, he sounds like James Bond. His hair is as perfect as ever. He is dashingly handsome.
When I DM'd you after the interview, you're like, he's still a smoke show.
He's still a smoke show.
Loved it. Absolutely love it. I agree. I watched the interview, so I watched it on YouTube so I could see him because obviously I'm kind of obsessed. I'm not as obsessed as I was at 18 or whatever, but at 44, I'm still kind of obsessed. And he looked great, and he was talking dad stuff, and it's like, dude, he's a dad who's playing music. It's like hilarious shit, you know?
That's my favorite part of this job is you get to know those guys on just the smallest of personal level. And even though they're infinitely more successful than all of us, they still have that human element to them. Like Patrick Carney of the Black Keys, we interviewed him in person in Nashville last summer. And he showed up to the interview like 15 minutes late, and he was wearing shoes with like the green grass stains on them because he was cutting his grass. And this is like a famous rock star. He just cleaned up at the Grammys this year. And he's like, sorry, I was cutting the grass. And I lost track of time. And we're like, you're good, man. So these guys aren't too different than us.
That's
sweating armpits, all gross.
Yeah, they're as fucked up as we are in some ways, but also successful. Now let's get on to some White Sox talk. I've been dying to talk a little White Sox with you. This is a common topic, but I wanted to do it in a different way. Everyone always does who's the most important player on the White Sox, but I want to do this in a couple different caveats, a couple different directions. So we're going to break this down into 6 different questions, and it's going to be first, who's the most important White Sox player that's going to line up 60 feet, 6 inches away every 5 days?
Nobody's going to like hearing this, but it is Mike Clevinger. For better, for worse, whatever you think of him, I don't think he's in anybody's good graces right now. He's not in mine.
Not really.
He's not mine. But like it or not, he's going to be pitching every 5 days, like barring health, which is obviously a big concern for not just him, but the entire roster.
For sure.
But I think we're all kind of expecting a bounce back from Giolito. He's looked good so far. That fastball looks like it's popping a little bit. Lance Lynn, he looked, like Lance Lynn aside from his first month when he was, shaking off rust.
Yeah, and he's pitching tonight in World Baseball Classic.
That is true. In a couple hours, the big bastard's going to be on TV, so we'll get a good look at him. Then Cease, I don't think we're necessarily expecting him to duplicate his 2022 success, but being an all-star A1 level pitcher.
Yep.
After that, what do you got?
Just Kopech.
Kopech, who, I think we can reasonably expect him to build upon the first half of his 22 season. But aside from that, you got Davis Martin, who I do like. I think he's got, big nuts and good stuff. And I do think he is a major league pitcher. But Clevinger, he's kind of the linchpin to me. Like if he has a good quality year, this team wins the division. If he doesn't, they're a 500 team. So unfortunately, you got to kind of hope for the best with him.
Yeah, they're make or break it on the tips, especially the starting pitching. You're right. The depth is lacking there, and Johnny Cueto ain't walking through that door.
Right. Yeah.
Next up, who's the most important White Sox player that will piss you off this year, even if they're good?
It's Moncada. I think that's everybody's answer, right?
Pretty much. It's pretty high on the list at this point.
I started that stupid ban list because people were hating on Moncada in the 2018. Was it 2018?
When he had all those strikeouts. Yeah, it was 18.
Yeah, all the strikeouts, and I understood it, but you could see the flashes of greatness. And I always say it's easier to teach someone to be more aggressive than, say, Tim Anderson toned down aggressiveness.
Right.
And that's what he did in 2019. He was more aggressive on pitches inside the zone, and he shit on the ball. So I'm not even hoping for a 2019. I'm not going to say repeat because it was only a one-time thing, but if he was somewhere closer to his 2021 self, we can live with that. But you're still going to see those strikeouts on pitches right down the cock.
That's the worst part.
The few where he doesn't run as hard as we would expect a Major League Baseball player getting paid. What's he making this year? Like 20-something million?
Yeah, he's getting up there now.
He's getting up
the
there.
back end of that extension
Right.
deal is getting expensive. Yeah,
It's getting expensive. So like I'm sure he's gonna piss me off plenty this year. But I hope I'm wrong. Like I hope I'm wrong with everything I say about the White Sox at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on Moncada. Like he's got to trade some of the walks for power because people want to see him hit the ball in the ballpark. You know, he can't show up here and have 13 home runs. Like this is where people start getting frustrated with him. Yes, the glove is good, and we all see that. At this point, we almost take his excellent defense for granted. We need more. We need more impact out of that bat. He can't be a number 7 hitter. You know,
no, that's not what you trade Chris Sale for.
Right.
Obviously, you can't completely and totally predict future outcomes of players, no matter what their prospect pedigree tells you. But it's put up or shut up for him. If he wants the last $50 million of that contract, those 2 option years, he better have a big year. You know,
Agreed.
Otherwise he's going to be a free
100%.
agent. Sox can let him walk and wash your hands of him, and I wouldn't even care if he throws up another complete dud. You know.
Yeah, no question about it. He's not even going to be a value play at that price. You're going to be like, well, he's not worth it. He's not worth this price anymore. So you gotta let him go.
Negative value play, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which White Sox aren't opposed to doing. So see you in 20 years.
That's true. Then it always give up sunk cost. Who's the most important White Sox player that is in their last year before free agency on this roster?
I got Gio for that one. I didn't count player or team options for that one. So just full on clean free agents. Gio, another year. I mean, I want, and this is something that I want to tell him to his face when we do sit down with him in a few weeks is I want the Gio back when he was pitching against Oakland in that 2020 Mickey Mouse playoff game where he's looking over his mitt and he looks like the Terminator, where that slider's biting 4 or 5 inches off the plate, looks like a fastball until the 59th foot and just darts out of the zone. Fastball 96, 97 up in the zone by hitters. I want that Gio back. And I know he has it. He's not a guy that really makes excuses. And he
wore it last year, actually. He did the opposite. He wore it. I stunk. And he was out there and he always faced the music. So you got to respect him for that.
Yeah, and he's great at that. And he doesn't need to do that either. He doesn't need to face the music, but he does because he does hold himself to a higher standard. Everybody saw him coming to spring training last year, and you're like, holy shit, Gio, he put on like 60 pounds. And I'm not even saying that it was bad weight or anything. It's just like he got too bulky. And I think he lost the elasticity in his arm, and he didn't have that same arm whip. And we all know about the sticky stuff. Everybody was using sticky stuff, so it doesn't really matter. Again, if everybody's using it, nobody's using it. No, you know. So now nobody's really using it. So everybody's on an even playing field. It is what it is. So I think he is. And I've seen this on White Sox Twitter and everything. I think for him, it's most reasonable to say we're gonna see what we've grown accustomed to seeing out of Lucas Giolito this year, and he wants to get paid too.
Yeah, big year for him because you're right. He's out there and he's watching all these pitchers get paid and everything. It's kind of the same reason we were talking at the 108 day. Treasy and I both think that Tim Anderson have a big year because he's seeing what the shortstops are making, and these guys want to be best in class. They want to make the big money. I will tell you this though: shortly after the season, I don't hear from him that often. But Rick Giolito slid into my DMs on Twitter. He told me Lucas is going to be all the way back in 2023. So I'm holding Rick to his word. He never lies to me. He told me Cease was going to become an ace. He became an ace. So I believe Rick Giolito that Lucas is going to be back this year.
Yeah, from Rick's lips to our ears. I hope that Rick too. You know, we've seen him be a legitimate bona fide ace. Yep, like a bona fide ace. And if you get him, Cease, Lynn, if you see Kopech be awesome, and then fifth with Clev. That's by far and away the best starting pitching in the Central Division. Right. And then you got all the talent up and down the lineup. We haven't talked about depth yet, which is another question regarding this team. There's a lot of ifs, but I mean, talent, player 1 through player 26, the White Sox have the best talent in the division. And that's an objective truth. Whether or not that talent's realized, we saw it last year. They could be a 81-win team again. But to not be a complete Debbie Downer, everything that could have went wrong last year did, and they still won. Yeah, that's true. Yep. I don't anticipate that happen 2 years in a row. I hope it doesn't. And that doesn't mean it won't, but
Yeah,
I think
totally agree.
you know, they should be right there in the thick of things come mid-September.
I agree with that. Next up, who is the most important White Sox player that will make a pre-arbitration salary this year?
Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been at the forefront of the Andrew Vaughn is gonna rake like parade. He hasn't quite done that yet. He's held his own fine. What he was 113 weighted runs, I think it was last year.
Last year, yeah.
Average. Obviously, I think this is a stupid excuse, but him playing left field or first base shouldn't affect his offensive game. I don't see how one thing has to do with the other. But that's the excuse that most people want to use, so I'll give it to him.
Right.
Just, like, okay, you can have that excuse. Now you're at first place. Now you have no excuses. Go and be the third or fourth overall pick.
Yep, third overall pick.
That was supposed to be, Chris Bryant level MVP quality, good of a hitter. Go and be that guy. Go hit 35 bombs. Go hit 300. Go get on base at a 375 clip, and be that middle of the order bat. And hopefully we see that. We keep seeing flashes of it in the last years. He's really tapered off at the end of the year, but I think this is going to be the year he finally takes off. So I think it being the year 2023, and we're talking about hoping for the best still.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been very critical of Andrew Vaughn. Or people have pointed the stick at me that I'm critical of Andrew Vaughn when I'm just kind of telling it like it is. Like you're saying, Dave, he just hasn't produced the way he's supposed to produce. And there's a lot of excuses for him. And I feel like he gets coddled more than any White Sox player on this roster. Like he gets defended more easily than basically anyone else. And look, I want him to be great too. He just hasn't been in his first 2 years. He's been okay. We need a lot more out of him. What you were saying right there is, yes, we need a guy with home runs, on-base monster, and right now they feel like they can spin him a slider and they're not that worried about him, and he wears down at the end of the year. We need both of those to be things of the past, and he needs to start dominating. I totally agree with you. I think it's a great choice right here because a lot of people are like, oh, he's fired on the pecking order. What matters? Bullshit. He needs to be the run producer that they thought they drafted.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, I know Benintendi is technically the Abreu replacement, but
right.
To make it easy, you can say that it was Vaughn. And, I mean, Abreu's the only one. Well, actually, Vaughn has been healthy as well, which is something you can't say about, anybody else on the team, really.
Most of the rest of the roster.
Lineup. But you need to – I know Abreu didn't hit – he hit 17, 18 home runs last year.
15 homers last year. It was a weak power year for him.
Yeah, but he still was by far the best hitter on that team, by far. So he needs to go be that Jose Abreu.
Yeah, totally agree. Next up, who's the White Sox player that's most important on this roster that has been chronically injured in the past?
Luis Robert. Luis Robert. He needs to be the MVP guy. We all saw him come back from, the groin at that point in 2021, where he had that 30 or 40 game stretch where he looked like he was the greatest player on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Where he didn't have a weak point in the zone. He was using all fields. If you made a mistake, he was hitting the ball 485 feet.
Yep.
Like he did in that one Oakland Mickey Mouse series.
It was a shot, yeah.
But like even in the World Baseball Classic, I know he's done better the last handful of games. I haven't watched those games, but there was a couple of just mutts on the mound that were spinning him just shit sliders off the plate, and he was doing the same wave at him.
Yeah.
And I don't like seeing a Mexican leaguer that had a 7 ERA in middle relief get Luis Robert out like that, it's like it scares me a little bit, but I mean, it's early.
It's early. Well, the thing about Luis, at least if he manages to stay healthy, he's athletic enough where he makes the adjustment. And then, like you mentioned in 21 when he came back, he was absolutely crushing the daylights out of the ball. I remember I took like his small amount of games he played, and I'm extrapolating, and it's like these are MVP numbers. And this is like the guy we thought we had, but he's just not able to. Other than 2020, his rookie year where he was healthy, he wasn't healthy last year. He was not healthy in 2021. I mean, he's got a combination of continue to learn on the job and just keep your body right. I'm hoping he's a little thicker now, it looks like. I'm hoping he won't hurt himself out there in the outfield or anything. I'm hoping he's got the oven mitts for sliding. There's no more wrist injuries. Like, well, we gotta cover him up. You know, we gotta contain him a little bit.
And on that note, the next question: most important player not playing, or most important uniforms player? You can ask it. I'm gonna.
Yeah. The last question is: what's the most important person wearing a uniform but not playing?
Now, I had to Google who their head trainer is. This is the head of just sports performance in general, Jeff Head.
Jeff Head, that's right.
We forgot who it was. His name is Jeff Head. Exact name of a nerd I want running my sports performance department.
Absolutely.
With the injuries they've had, I think that it's just outside of a training staff's control. I don't know the first thing about health or doctors or training or anything like that.
Me either.
But these guys are like tearing muscles. It's like, what do you do to prepare for that? I think it's the players are just pussies, or their bodies are giving way on them for the most part. Like, you could have you could bring back Herm Schneider or whoever you want, and in those 2 seasons, they're still going to be getting hurt. I could be completely wrong when I say that, though. It could be on the training staff, but whoever this Jeff Head guy is, figure out what is making these guys so injury prone, please. Because if they're on the field for 125, 30 games apiece, and there's no long-term injuries to anybody, this team wins the division.
You're absolutely right. Let me get to a couple drinks here before we get into the last segment. Lil Yumper says, Dave playing with beefs emotions. First mentioned Gavin Rossdale, then predicting Andrew Vaughn is going to have a good year. You know, Yumper, I predicted Andrew Vaughn would have a good year at 108 Day in 2022, and then he didn't do shit. So he's not, a little bit on my shit list, but I'm still hopeful. So thank you for the drink. And then my guy, Dougie Fresh, who is hooking his chain to Mailman Jack. That's a big mistake, Dougie. Anyway, he says, sorry I'm late. Here's my weekly dues. Vote Dougie in the one-way tournament. Cheers, Dougie. Appreciate you.
I just
all right. That's right. Last segment here. We talk about this all the time. We've talked about it on Redline Radio when you've had us on there before. It's just like how being a White Sox fan is a true sickness. It is a disgusting, like, we would like to not be White Sox fans the way we are, but we can't help it. We just stay in there. We're in there all the time. So my question is this. Because we're disgusting people that are addicted to White Sox, and we can't help it, we're going to be there. We're going to be at the ballpark. We're going to be enjoying it. Can you just paint me what you think the vibes at the ballpark are going to look like this year? Give me early season, during the summer, and then into the fall, kind of what you think the vibes are going to be in the ballpark.
I think that the vibes are deservedly going to be a lot of what you've seen on White Sox Twitter. We're a angry nation right now, and for good reason. And if you look at their first month schedule, it is not easy. If they go 500 in April, then they won April, because you got. I mean, you're playing the best of the best in that month, which, like, if they're 10 and 15 or whatever it would shake out to, you're going to see a lot of people calling for heads for both players. I know Griffel's got at least a couple years of.
He's on a free roll right here. I agree with you. Nothing can go wrong for him. If it goes well, he'll get all the credit. If it goes wrong, he'll get none of the blame. I think he's got a free roll for at least this
unless
year.
He does something stupid like hit Luis Garcia third, which the last 2 managers have had no problem doing. I'm sure you could go back to fucking Robin.
And find something weird that he did.
Yeah, find that with exactly. Luis Garcia. Like I saw Garcia was leading off a spring game the other day. I didn't get to watch it, but it's like practice like you play. If you're gonna play Garcia, hit him 9th.
Right, that's his spot.
Second base, and I get so pissed off because it's like a Stockholm syndrome that some Sox fans have regarding players looking at that fat prick Ken W.O. And it's like, oh, Luis Garcia. And a lot of times they'll reference his Fangraphs page. Oh, he's a good base runner. No, he's not a good base runner. He's a horrible base runner. I don't care what his base running metrics are. On Fangraphs. He's a horrible defender. It's constant where he'll miss a cut or throw to the wrong base. I don't know what these Fangraphs and baseball references and metrics are measuring, but the guy sucks at every position he plays. He must play. stick him at second base. Well, there's not even that much room for error anymore because of the shift.
Yeah.
And let him just hope to not fuck up instead of hoping for any production at all. Because that guy sucks. He shouldn't have been on a big league roster, let alone handed a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. It makes me sick. But to the original question. Sorry, I get heated when I talk about.
No, I'm like, it's okay. I know you get upset. I've been a Lurie defender because I just think you don't need to get. I see you getting upset. You don't need to get so upset because it's like in the '90s Bulls. If you got upset about like Cliff Livingston have a bad game, it's like he's like way down the totem pole. I get it, but I also like, come on, these other guys got to get their shit together. You know what I mean?
That's a way to answer. Like, yes, Griffel has a free roll.
Yeah,
but you'll lose it quickly with me if you make stupid managerial decisions like that. Like,
good call.
What's his face's credit when La Russa stepped down last year? At least Garcia's playing time vanished out of thin air.
Yeah, Miguel Cairo pulled him out of there completely. He only used them pinch runner here and there, occasional, like very sparingly used them, and people loved it.
Garcia was on second base, like, I don't know, maybe Friday, and there was one out in a fly ball to center field, and he got
doubled off.
And Stone was already disgusted with what he saw. You know,
yeah, he got doubled off, and not great. It's like when he got picked off a third in Colorado.
I went to a Bonnie Raitt concert last year when he got picked off third against Colorado. So I was listening on the radio, and I'm just sitting there banging my steering wheel on the Kennedy, just like how.
It was one of the worst plays ever.
There's nothing good about Lurie Garcia's baseball. He doesn't have baseball acumen. I don't care that he's a nice guy in the clubhouse. If you need your 26 guy to be like a leader in the clubhouse, then your team sucks.
That's a problem. Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. So in the beginning of the year, the vibes are going to be, we're pissed off. How about when we get into summer? We roll into nice weather. What's the vibes going to be at Sox Park?
If they're in first place come June 1st, vibes will be high. You know? Yeah. And the White Sox have this thing they like to do where they like to do a lot of stupid shit that's bad PR that pisses off the fan base. Yep. That I don't want to say they blame the fans for, but they get defensive about when the fans call them out for it.
Yep.
So if they can avoid doing that thing where they piss off the fan base for something stupid, then vibes will be high. The bleachers will be flowing. Section 108 will be packed to the gills.
That's right. It'll be drunk as hell. That's right.
Yeah. If not, then, I mean, they reap what they sow. You know, they reap what they sow. Sox fans are being honest. And can you really get in trouble for telling the truth?
Are.
You know,
yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. I had Tom Fornelli on here a couple weeks ago, and he said White Sox fans are just prickly in nature, and we're going to let you know about it. If we don't agree with what you did, we're just going to tell you. And White Sox fans do that. We're honest with our team. We're honest with and that's why they get pissed at us. Like no one wants to hear when they're not doing a good job. But guess what? We're White Sox fans. We're going to fucking tell you when you're not doing a good job. That's what it is.
If you guys do a good job, games a year, and taking advantage of being the one major market team in a division of small, fucking Naperville's bigger than Kansas City. Like, you should be using financial might to bully these teams. You have every resource on earth. Use it to your advantage and be better. You talk about being mired in mediocrity. Well, don't be mediocre. You choose mediocre. You choose that. That is the path that you choose. And when people bitch about it, after you told us you were going to have sustained success, like what else do you expect? What else do you expect? And I'm ripping on Han right now. I'll say this time and time again. I really think he had the rug pulled from under him because as the one guy in the front office that opens up to the media for better or for worse, like I don't think he would put himself in the position that he has put himself in to be in the crosshairs of Sox fans with the quotes that he had after the Chris Sale and Jose Quintana and Adam Eaton trades, where he was talking about, asked me after the parade and stuff like that. He wouldn't have said that if he thought that, fast forward 5 years when we're in our contention window, that he would have, he wouldn't have said all that because then it's just going to be an egg on his face and he's going to be the one Sox fans are shitting on constantly. So I'm just trying to read tea leaves. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, if he knew his big deadline acquisition when they're out 3 games in 2022 was Jake Diekman, he probably wouldn't have uttered those words. Last question here, Dave, is what most disgusts you about yourself and your White Sox fandom? We always talk about we're disgusting Sox fans. What most disgusts you about yourself?
On a physical level, we're just ugly by nature. We're an ugly bunch of people. Like, I don't think there's any attractive White Sox fans from like a larger picture. And
we're attractive to each other, but outsiders look at us and like those people are disgusting. That's kind of I think that's agreeable.
Repugnant, and I happen to wear that like a badge of honor. On an inside level,
when we're in like, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When we're in September and we're coming down the stretch and I've been drinking way too much beer for like 6 months and I'm like 20 pounds overweight and I'm real sweaty and bloated and gross, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, I agree with you. I embrace it.
Yeah, you just wear it on your sleeve. Papa Doc people. That's what you got to do. Just Papa Doc them. Like
that's right.
They call you fat, you call yourself even fatter. You know.
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
I am a fucking bum. I do live in a trailer with my mom. Just do that.
Then they can't hurt you.
Like you call it an addiction. I don't think it's an addiction as much as like we're just born into it and we're the captains of the Titanic. We sink or swim with the ship. You know. Like
we're riding this bitch down. That's right.
I would love. I said this before when they traded Sale, and that was like 6 months or 8 months after Barstool was first sold, and I'm like kind of looking ahead into the future. I'm like, might turn into something huge from Barstool. I'm like, if this becomes a national audience, I want to be at the forefront of shitting down the nation's throat, being like, fuck you guys, I'm a White Sox fan. And I was at the ground floor with these guys, and I'm talking about you three and everybody in the chat that's, consuming White Sox content in a year where we all hate the team.
That's right.
But like, it hasn't been that. But at the same time, like, I ain't changing a thing. Like, I'm still going to be here. I'll still be at the, every weekend game. I'll still be at 30-something games a year. I know you guys are crazy at every weekday game.
Yeah, we'll be at like 70-ish at my Sox summer night. Should be around 70 games. It's a grind. Yeah,
it's a grind. But I wouldn't change it.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Dave, thank you so much for bestowing your White Sox thoughts on the most important player and the sickness of being a White Sox fan. Remember, we ain't trying to be right on the show. We are just trying to understand. Do you have anything you want to plug before you go?
No, I do see Chuggin with Fresh is asking why Chief gave up on the weight loss challenge. That's an excellent question. I didn't know that he did, but you guys should be really hammering him on social media if he did, in fact, quit on that.
He did, and Chuggin with Fresh was the champ. Actually, he was the champion. He won the weight loss competition.
Talking Chuggin?
He lost like 21% or 22%. I mean, that's a monster amount.
That's a shit
weight
ton.
He lost.
And for anybody of any size, that's a lot. So congrats on that. I bet you feel a million times better. I lost 5 over the course. I'm like 187, 188 right now.
Oh, look at you. Fighting weight, baby. I love it. Love to hear it.
Yeah, I'm at the perfectly acceptable, like still kind of fat, but not completely fat like I was.
Attaboy. So, that's Chicago skinny is what that is, you guys.
Perfectly put.
Dave, take care, brother. Good talking to you.
Thank you for having me, and we'll catch you guys soon.
Awesome. That's White Sox Dave from Barstool. Great to have him on. A little teaser. Next week's guest is going to be Sean Anderson from CHGO. He's going to come on here. We'll probably talk some Andrew Vaughn stuff, but also he wants to talk about a Twitter thread that I put up about how anyone can make their own content. He told me he's got long thoughts on that, so it'll be great to have him on. That'll be next week, March 20th at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thanks again to White Sox Dave. Thanks to all the White Sox family that is in the crowd, the 108 family. Appreciate you smashing the like button. Love the super chats. Great talking to y'all. Start voting tomorrow. 108 tourney, we vote tomorrow. The first 2 brackets are up 8 a.m. Central Time. The brackets will start 12 hours. We'll see you then. Post-game show afterwards right here on YouTube Live. Bless you all. Take care.